Sportsbook and on the free Odyssey app.
Love, two fakes, and he finds Musgrave for what might be the knockout punch on the first touchdown of the rookie's career.
Good morning, Packer fans. Welcome into the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman today on a Tuesday. Happy July. Happy Pay Your Rent Day for everyone else who had to do that today. And as well, we have Happy Ryan Horvat Day. Ryan Horvat at the BetMGM tonight. BetMGM Network is going to join the show at 8:20 today. We're going to get caught up all things Green Bay Packers for the next hour or so here. Super excited to get into today's show. July 1st, also the significance of today. It is the last few weeks that President CEO Mark Murphy is officially atop of the Green Bay Packers food chain right now. Mark Murphy, his birthday is July 13th. He will reach the mandatory retirement age of 70 within the Green Bay Packers organization, and he will no longer be at the helm for the Green Bay Packers. A couple of weeks ago, Jordan Love at the OTAs gave up a couple of comments on Mark Murphy and really highlighting the love for Mark Murphy during that time.
No, Mark, it's been awesome. Obviously, Mark being the president that was here when I got drafted has meant a lot to me. And just the conversations me and Mark have on the side of, I got nothing but respect for him. And he's another guy that's believed me from day one. And, it's very awesome. So I got nothing but respect. His time's been great here. And I know he made a comment that, we wish we would have got a Super Bowl under his tenure, but, hopefully we can get one for him this year, but on the way out. But nothing but respect for Mark.
18 years, that audio courtesy of Fox on the Luke Musgrave touchdown and that one from the Packers. 18 years, Mark Murphy has been at the helm for the Green Bay Packers. He was there for the Super Bowl, 2 quarterback transitions that everyone thought was chaos and drama when that was coming around between Favre to Rodgers to Love now. So we will keep an eye on any new developments here from Mark Murphy and what he's going to be doing this last month here. I'm sure he's going to have a great time. I'm sure he's having, super excited. They have an article that just was released today on ESPN from Rob Domofsky. What is Mark Murphy's legacy as the Packers president and CEO? Does a phenomenal job going over that and has some good stories in there from Mark Murphy. They talk about firing of Mike McCarthy during this segment as well. And they have some clips in there of Mark Murphy at his last minicamp as well for the Green Bay Packers when he broke them down 1-2-3 Super Bowl, the entire team. Yes, very, very nice. Mark Murphy. So last month of Mark Murphy's career, what we're going to talk about today on today's show and why Luke Musgrave led things off on today's Pack-A-Day Radio Show is we have an article here from a couple of guests that we've had on the Pack-A-Day Radio Show with Andy Herman in the past. I'll read you the names. Zach Kruse, Brandon Carwile, Brennan Rupp, Mark Oldacres, all of Packers Wire. They released an article, and they each contributed to this, to Yahoo Sports, on which second and third year players must improve for the Packers in 2025. And so that's the question. You can text it in, call in. I'll get you on the other side of the break. Nicolay Law Fan Talk and text line 414-677-1250. That's the number to join the show. Which second and third year players must improve for the Packers in 2025? Now, Luke Musgrave, who you just heard at the top of the hour, he is coming into his third year with the Green Bay Packers. Last year, injury-riddled. Tucker Kraft really took over that top tight end one spot. 2 years ago, however, Luke Musgrave had assumed that role, and I think did a fine job. Everyone was pleased with the athleticism and the versatility they saw out of Luke Musgrave. They know he's not necessarily a plus blocker on the run game, And if you remember, it seemed like he was just learning how to walk when he was with Green Bay last time we saw Luke Musgrave play meaningful and relatively the most of the minutes and plays for Green Bay. Every time he caught the ball, it seemed like he fell down. That one, he did not fall down. He made a man miss. That was from 2 years ago against the Rams. Remember the Dallas Cowboy touchdown in the playoffs? That was also fantastic out of Luke Musgrave. You saw what could be with Luke Musgrave. But then Tucker Kraft came in last year, another third-year player, and I don't believe he will be on this list because I don't know how much more you want him to improve. He has easily taken over the top tight end one spot for the Green Bay Packers. He blocks better. He gets open. Maybe he's not as athletic. He's got sure hands. I don't see that being someone that we see on this list. Now, I will go over the Green Bay Packer draft history, not from last year or this past draft, but the 2 years before that. So we know who the second and third year players are. Starting in the 7th round, back from 2023, Grant Dubose, Anthony Johnson, Lou Nichols, Carrington Valentine, Anders Carlson, yikes, Carl Brooks, Devontae Wicks, Sean Clifford, Colby Wooden, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, Lucas Van Ness. That was the 2023 draft class. 2024 draft class. Kalen King, Michael Pratt, Travis Glover, Gitano Adapo, Jacob Monk, Evan Williams, Tyron Hopper, Marshawn Lloyd, Javon Bullard, Edgerrin Cooper, and Jordan Morgan. Those are the candidates who still remain with the Packers that will be eligible for this list. There are 19 players who are second and third year players currently on the Green Bay Packers 90-man roster. Which one needs to improve in order to help the Green Bay Packers? It's the Pack-A-Day Radio Show live from the 1250 AM 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman today. Now, let's get into this article here. So Zach Kruse, Packers Wire, has been on the show before with Andy Herman. He has his two players, and it feels like these are the chalk answers as to who needs to improve for Green Bay in 2025 from the second and third year class. The second year player he decided, Jordan Morgan. Now, we saw very little of Jordan Morgan last season. Not a lot to go off of. We know that he was drafted and played tackle and guard. Seems like he can play both of those positions. But really, we don't know where he's going to play yet. We've seen him take a lot of reps at tackle. Then we heard rumors that Rasheed Walker, they're working on an extension with him. We know that he can play right guard, but is that really his best position and the best way to utilize Jordan Morgan on the offensive line? I had said earlier with Andy Herman a few weeks ago that if we are writing in Sharpie, things that will not change, these are permanent placements. You cannot write Jordan Morgan in Sharpie at a position on the offensive line, but you can write Jordan Morgan in Sharpie to be on the starting offensive line, in my opinion. I think he will either be the starting left tackle or the starting right guard this year for the Green Bay Packers. Kruse writes, the Packers were good along the offensive line for most of 2024, but they could be great in 2025 if Morgan takes a step forward, winning a starting job at left tackle or right guard, and gives the Packers above average play at either position. Yeah, that would be great. And I know a lot of people really didn't have a lot to give up for the offensive line last year. But we saw in the playoff game against Philadelphia, the Green Bay Packers offensive line was manhandled by Philly. And I understand that Philly is probably the best defensive front in the NFL last season, but it got exposed very quick when Elton Jenkins went down and they had to bring in Glover to try to make up whatever was going on the offensive side. And it was a complete disaster. So Jordan Morgan at the top for Zach Kruse on the second-year player. The third-year player, again, the chalk pick, in my opinion. He went with the 2 first-round picks, Lucas Van Ness. He writes here, we'll stay in the trenches. Much like the Packers' offensive line, the Packers' defensive line was good for most of the 2024 season. Was it? Was it? It felt like that was what we were complaining about most of the time last season with the Green Bay Packers. Kenny Clark was very underwhelming. Lucas Van Ness, underwhelming. Rashawn Gary was, he had his moments. Carl Brooks had his moments, but no one really solidifying themselves as a stud last season on the defensive line. But Lucas Van Ness, a big-time addition wasn't made, so the Packers are banking on a big leap from Van Ness in year 3 to power a lot of improvement in terms of consistently disrupting the passer. That's it, consistently. We know the Packers were a top 10 team in sacks in the NFL last year. They have outlier games. Consistently providing pressure on the quarterback from the eye test last year with Green Bay was not apparent. We did not see that out of the Green Bay Packers enough, especially when moving to the new defense where it was going to be a 4-man front and they wanted to provide pressure out of those 4s. Jeff Hafley, a lot of faith in the 4 guys on the defensive line to provide that pressure. That's how his defense operates. It didn't really seem like that was the primary praise for the Green Bay Packers last season. So those are the 2 options here, and I will continue to go down the list. I will not repeat reading off anything when we do that. Brandon Carwile, his second-year player was Jordan Morgan, but his third-year player was the man we heard at the top, Luke Musgrave. And this has been something that people have speculated now with Green Bay, is with a healthy Musgrave and a healthy Kraft, it was going to be a lot of 12 personnel, right? 1 running back, 2 tight ends. And we would see a 12 personnel a lot out of the Green Bay Packers. Last year, when Musgrave was in the game, it felt like it was a dead tell. The Packers were going to pass the football. Musgrave, not a great blocker, compared to Kraft at least. And they wanted to see what they had with the athleticism at the tight end position. And here coming off, it's easy to be disappointed with Musgrave coming back off back-to-back injury-plagued seasons. The Packers hoped they were getting a speedy tight end who could stretch the field. But instead, injuries have prevented Musgrave from showing many flashes. I agree. I do agree. Because we have seen Luke Musgrave excel at getting separation from the tight end position. He's a great mismatch for a lot of linebackers trying to cover him. But it really wasn't anything that made you think superstar. And they drafted Luke Musgrave in the second round when they drafted Tucker Kraft in the third round 2 years ago. That coming from Brandon Carwile. Now, Mark Oldacres also had Lucas Van Ness at his third-year player. But his second-year player, Tyron Hopper. Really? The linebacking core for Green Bay this year. We know it's going to be Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker. We know that Isaiah Simmons is playing some sort of role in this. Isaiah McDuffie, you know how much we know that Jeff Hafley likes Isaiah McDuffie because of the Boston College connection. And I think he was fine as a backup linebacker, but when he was starting, there was obviously some liability out there. Tyron Hopper was the third-round pick out of Texas A&M for the Green Bay Packers. I'm not so sure. I'm sorry, Missouri, not Texas A&M. I am sure that he is a freak athlete. But again, I don't know where he fits in on this team as far as needs to be the guy who is the second-year player. I don't see that. There are many other names on this list that I think need to improve. Brennan Rupp, he talks about Javon Bullard being a name. Bullard had a fine rookie season while moving back and forth from deep safety and in the slot. He was an interchangeable piece in the secondary that the Packers were looking for. It's possible that the Packers could have Nate Hobbs man the slot and Bullard could focus solely on playing safety. Do we want that again? It felt like last year, Javon Bullard went in the nickel. That was where he was at his best. That was where he could excel. Then Evan Williams could play the other safety. Xavier McKinney is manning the free spot. Nate Hobbs, they just spent $12 million, 4 years, $48 million, to come in and play corner, and they obviously thought he was confident enough to play on the outside with letting Jair Alexander walk. So again, Javon Bullard, if you want him to improve, I understand. And I think he's going to play the nickel. I don't think he's going to play safety. That would be a really raw deal for Evan Williams if Javon Bullard comes in and just takes over the strong safety position after what Evan Williams did last year. His third-year player, Brennan Rupp, I think this might be one of the better picks. Dontavian Wicks. Obviously, the drops are a red flag for Wicks. Coming out of college, and that red flag was whipping in the wind last season. If he can clean that issue up, he could be in store for a breakout campaign, Rupp says. I agree. I'm pretty high on Dontavian Wicks. And drops, we've seen it before in this organization, is not really the most off-putting problem to have at a wide receiver. Separation. We saw how great Dontavian Wicks at getting separation. He can get off the line. He has a great release. He's able to make men miss before the catch. And once he has the ball in his hands, he has a little bit of make a man miss ability as well. The drops were a problem, not just for Dontavian Wicks, but for the entire Green Bay Packer organization at that. Dontavian Wicks, I would assume, is going to be within the Packers' top 3 receivers on this team. It'll be some formation of Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, and Dontavian Wicks. That leaves plenty of opportunity for Savion Williams, for Romeo Doubs during that time as well. Maybe there's some trade bait out there as well for one of those wide receivers, because things are definitely seemingly more deep for the Green Bay Packers at the wide receiver position. Me personally, who I think should be on this list, could be a factor on this list. I think Jordan Morgan and Lucas Van Ness are great options for the Green Bay Packers that need to improve for the second and third year players. But I also see a name on here that no one brought up. Marshawn Lloyd. He's coming off an injury-riddled season last year. Anytime he seemed to be healthy, he would get hurt again, or the appendicitis, or whatever it is. He was very unlucky last year with his health. Well, Marshawn Lloyd is going to be a guy that, how many carries is he going to take away from Josh Jacobs? Because a lot of people also assuming now, at least I am, that Josh Jacobs is going to be the focal point of this Green Bay Packer offense this season. And if he is going to carry this large workload, how many carries can Marshawn Lloyd take away that still provide breakout potential, explosive play potential? The Green Bay Packers did not have a lot of explosive plays last season from the running back position. I think Marshawn Lloyd would be a very valuable option here as well. Carl Brooks, for a third-year player, I think is a great option, because that's another guy we saw when he had his playing time on the defensive line. It wasn't like it was a night and day difference between whoever would be out there versus Carl Brooks being out there. There are plenty of options. 19 spots for the Green Bay Packers between second and third year players heading into 2025. Which one needs to improve in order for the Green Bay Packers to succeed in 2025? My picks: Jordan Morgan has to be there. And I think Dontavian Wicks might be my next one. The wide receiver group, they tried to add as much as they could in the draft for Green Bay. They brought in a veteran like Mecole Hardman to try to make some more noise. The Green Bay Packers are relying heavily on development. They did not go out and get free agents this year. These are the players we need to be watching, keeping a closer eye on, to make sure that the Green Bay Packers can find success in 2025. Coming up, we're going to talk to Ryan Horvat of BetMGM tonight. We'll ask him a little bit about the Packers heading into 2025, what he thought about this offseason for the Green Bay Packers. And it's Ryan Horvat. We got to get some betting lines out there, maybe some good prop bets for the NFC North heading into next season. It is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman. Hey, listen to the Fan for your chance to win a pair to go see the one and only Adam Sandler and his You're My Best Friend tour, live Sunday, October 5th at Pfizer Forum. Visit thefanmilwaukee.com for your chance to register to win a pair of tickets. That is awesome. That is so great. I am so excited to bring on my next guest here, BetMGM tonight, the BetMGM Network. Ryan Horvat joining the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. You've heard him on these airwaves before. You've heard him with Andy Herman. You hear him on the BetMGM Network. We've never actually gotten to talk live on the radio together. Ryan, how are we doing today, my man?
Tommy, doing great, man. I'm actually on vacation. The only person I would have said yes to this week was you coming on in Milwaukee. So I'm doing good, man. I'm excited for the football season. I'm excited that I don't have to go to work tonight until 11 p.m. and break down the hot dog eating contest, because the last 3 years, betting content around this week, man, other than baseball, that's all anybody wants to talk about. Hey, who you betting in the hot dog eating contest? I have way better things to do with my money than bet Joey Chestnut to win the hot dog eating contest. But Jack, to be on with you, man, and great intro music coming in with a little Radiohead. You guys have upgraded since I left.
Yeah, it's the natural rotator that's going on here. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's all Steve Sparky Pfeiffer on the rotator music.
We give him no credit.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I rescind the credit here. Ryan, talking, where are you on vacation, my man?
A little staycation, actually.
Oh,
Just,
nice.
Taking the week off and sitting by the pool. I'm going back into town. I had a couple weddings this week, so I'm trying to figure out if I want to go back to the Chicagoland area. My aunt decided that she was getting married about 2 weeks ago and let me know last minute. So now I'm trying to figure out if I want to redo my plans and go back into the Chicago area or if I want to just stay and enjoy the weather.
Well, I appreciate you joining us here, Ryan. Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, the BetMGM Network. We're going to talk some Green Bay Packers, Ryan. That sound good for you today? Ryan,
oh yeah.
How did you feel about the Green Bay Packers offseason as a whole? Whether it was the minimal signings in free agency, but the high investment that they did in the NFL draft on the offensive side. If you were looking at the Green Bay Packers offseason as a whole, you want to grade it, you want to put it on a scale of 1 to 10. How did you feel about Green Bay this offseason in the moves they made?
I'll give them a B, right? Like we all always, and I'm usually guilty of this too, especially when it's around trade deadline and there's a disgruntled wide receiver that all of a sudden becomes available. In the past, I've wanted Odell Beckham Jr., but you look around the league, man, and that's just really not how you win in the National Football League. You have to draft well. Also, it's just really hard to win Super Bowls, as we've learned the last couple decades. The Patriots did it a bunch with their dynasty with Brady and Belichick, and now it's the Kansas City Chiefs are there every year. Last year I know Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, but they won that Super Bowl, man, not because of their offseason 2 years ago. I mean, it doesn't hurt getting a guy like A.J. Brown, obviously, and Saquon Barkley, but they won that game because of that defensive line. All those draft picks out of Georgia, they made life a living hell for Patrick Mahomes. So that's how you win in the NFL. I love the Matthew Golden pick. I didn't think he would be available for Green Bay because I thought that Dallas was going to take him. I figured they needed another wide receiver to complement CeeDee Lamb. So I did like the draft. I joked, like, this will finally be the year that they take a wide receiver in the first round because it wasn't the deepest wide receiver class. There wasn't like a T. Higgins or a Jamar Chase. But I really do like Golden because now finally for Green Bay, you have that guy that could take the top off the defense. You can line him up in the slot. He'll probably line up on the outside a little bit, but he's a legit 4.3 40 guy. And that's what you need because Packers fans keep waiting for Christian Watson just to stay healthy for an entire season. And I don't know that that's ever going to be the case. I don't know if and when we see Christian Watson this season. And I like Romeo Doubs, but I like him more as a possession receiver, right? Like a number 2 or a number 3. And then there's all these other guys, Wicks. Jaden Reed needs a bigger role in the offense. He only ran a route on 67% of the snaps last season. That needs to increase this year. I'm sold on the run game. The concerns I had coming into the offseason, were the offensive line. And I know it's going to be a little bit of a makeshift. They're going to move Elton Jenkins to the center position, of course, where he's played before. But I was fine on the offensive side of the ball with the offseason, man, because I think what it comes down to is Jordan Love just has to stay healthy. It's easy to rag on Jordan Love's play last year, and I was guilty of it at times myself because, of course, I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. But I think he needs to stay healthy, man. And I saw he just got married. Also, Matt LaFleur needs to take the handcuffs off a little bit this year, I think, too. Right? Like 2 years ago, the final 10 games of the season, Jordan Love played like the best quarterback in the league, like an all-pro, because Matt LaFleur let Jordan Love be Jordan Love. That's what I want to see is how about some more read option stuff, right? Like let him use his legs a little bit. He's not Lamar Jackson. He doesn't need to be carrying the ball 15 times a game, but he is a hell of an athlete, man, and I don't think a lot of people know that about him. On the defensive side of the ball, I wish there were a couple more moves, right? Like especially I want more pass rushers. I know this is a big prove-it year for Van Ness. And they still have Rashawn Gary, who's making a ton of money. The only thing with Gary, man, is his run-stop win rate is so much better than his pass rush numbers. I would love for him to be a double-digit sack guy this year, but my biggest concern would be the secondary. I like the Hobbs pickup. I figured they were going to find a way to keep Jair. I'm glad that whole roller coaster is over. I wish that they would have been able to do so. But I'll give them like a B minus. It wasn't too flashy, but I don't think it needs to be flashy, right? I think the Lions are definitely going to regress, especially losing both coordinators, including Ben Johnson. We don't know what Minnesota is going to be because none of us have seen J.J. McCarthy make an official start yet at the quarterback position at the National Football League. And I'm high on the Bears, but I don't think they're ready to win the division this year. So I bet Green Bay to win the division, man. Wasn't the splashiest offseason, but I think they did what they needed to do. It just comes down to, can you protect Jordan Love and keep him healthy for an entire season? And is the defense going to improve a little bit more now year 2 under Halfley.
Yeah, Ryan, I wanted to ask you about expectations heading in. You gave it away already for the Green Bay Packers. You like their chances at the division this year. But I also saw a clip of you yesterday talking about Jordan Love. And we did a list yesterday, not our list, but we reacted to Pro Football Focus ranked the 32 quarterbacks for 2025 heading into 2025. And we reacted to this list yesterday because Jordan Love was put at 13th, the 13th quarterback for the National Football League heading into next season. Now, I think I might be a little bit higher on Jordan Love than most, but it sounds like you are as well, Ryan, and you might have bet him to be in the MVP conversation this year. So I want to ask you, 13th is way too low to rank Jordan Love. I mean, he was behind like Dak Prescott and Geno Smith and Trevor Lawrence on this list. I mean, these are all guys, Jordan Love, I think we've seen enough to say he can be more competitive than those guys on the football field, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'd probably have him 10, right? Like right in the top 10, definitely above Trevor Lawrence. That said, I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a nice season with Liam Cohen, but man, he's been a little bit of a disappointment and he has not been healthy. Geno Smith, I'm a Geno guy, man, right? But Geno is what he is. And I think Jordan Love's ceiling is so much higher than a lot of these guys. Even Dak Prescott, we kind of just know what Dak is. He's a good regular season quarterback. And I know that it's not one-on-one, unfortunately, or I think Aaron Rodgers would have a lot more Super Bowl rings. But let's not forget when Jordan Love went into Dallas 2 years ago, first career playoff start on the road, playing a Cowboys team that didn't lose in Jerry's world all day and put up ridiculous numbers and outdueled Dak Prescott. So I'm really high on Jordan Love, man. Like last year, he was just never healthy. And then when he came back, he still wasn't healthy. He probably played at like 70%. That playoff game is where you could really see that he just could barely move around out there, man. He just was not himself. But he can make every single throw. My only concern with Jordan Love, when he got drafted, I went back and watched every single snap like most people did at Utah State. And the last year he led the nation in interceptions, but it's also because he lost 3 starting offensive linemen, his 2 best wide receivers, his starting running back. So what he was doing was playing a lot of hero ball, trying to throw the team on his back, make throws that he shouldn't be making. That's what you don't want to see from Jordan Love, right? Like you don't want to see those hero throws, him rolling to his left and trying to throw a dart to his right that gets picked off. You know, some of those bad interceptions against Philadelphia where he's clearly just trying to make a play. But when he plays within the offense, man, the throws he makes, they're Mahomes-like throws, are they not? I mean, they're Aaron Rodgers-like throws. There's a reason. It's like when Aaron sat behind Brett, right? And he picked up on what Brett did well and what Brett did not do well, which was a lot. That's what Jordan did with Aaron, man. And you see a lot of the same mannerisms and mechanics when he's hopping around in the pocket. But again, I just think it comes down to, is LaFleur going to let Jordan Love be Jordan Love? And I think this is finally the year where they open up the offense completely for him. So I like the MVP price because it's 28-1. If I was going to bet MVP today, man, I'm not going to bet Pat Mahomes at 7-1 and tie up my money for 4 months just to win $700. I'm going to take a flyer on either Jordan Love at 28-1 or Brock Purdy at 28-1 because I think both of those guys are going to put up really big numbers this season, and I think both teams are locked to win the NFC, both Green Bay and San Francisco.
Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, the BetMGM Network joining the Pack-A-Day radio show. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman. And today, Ryan, we were going over a list that we had from our friends over at Packers Wire, and they were talking about second and third year players that they think must improve for the Packers in 2025. And you bring up Jordan Love, and you immediately think of wide receiver help. And one Brennan Rupp had Dontavian Wicks on that list. We talked about the defensive side, and that Lucas Van Ness is a massive player on this list. Luke Musgrave. How big do you think this development phase is for Green Bay? They are trying to draft and develop. And when you think of the young players for the Packers, the young players, second, third year guys that need to improve for Green Bay, that need to be better for Jordan Love, for the Green Bay Packers' success, to try to get Jordan Love to hit on a 28-1 MVP odds, who jumps to mind first when it comes to the young players that they have tried to develop over the last 2-3 seasons that needs to step up for Green Bay if you want to see success in 2025?
So I'm going to go back to Wicks, man, just because, like, if you pop on the All-22 or you watch the tape and you look at the separation numbers, which is really important, right? Like, as a wide receiver, obviously, you have to create separation, especially if you are the speedster, the burner. And Wicks is always open, man, right? It's like a couple of years ago when Aaron Rodgers and MVS could just never get on the same page, but MVS was constantly open. But like Rodgers would either overshoot him or he would drop the football. I just think Wicks needs more targets. You just wonder, is that going to be this year? Now that you finally use a first-round pick on Matthew Golden, like I said, they got to get Jaden Reed more involved in the offense. But that would be it for me. Both Jaden Reed and Wicks need to have breakout years on the offensive side of the ball. All the young guys on the offensive line, because there's going to be injuries, right? That's what worries me about that line, is who's going to be able to step up, and be that guy that could play both tackle and guard, because they've had that guy, in the past. And then on the defensive side of the ball, not to be lazy because I already brought up his name, but it's got to be Van Ness, man. You win in this league with a pass rush. Your secondary, everybody's worried about the secondary, right? About Valentine and about Hobbs and about all these guys. The secondary will be fine as long as you get pressure on the quarterback. Any secondary is going to look terrible if you give the quarterback 4 to 5 seconds in the pocket to zone the entire field, to scan the entire field. So Green Bay has to get consistent pressure on the quarterback. Look at the NFC. All the teams, man, that win Super Bowls, or not even just in the NFC, the last couple of years, the team with the best pass rush and the best offensive line is usually in the running for the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go back to Van Ness. He's got to be at least, I think, a 7 to 8 sack guy. I would love double digits from him. I don't know if that's his game. I keep seeing all these pictures of him working out in the off season without his shirt. He looks great. You watch him at Iowa, he was really damn good, but they rotate their defensive linemen so much.
He wasn't even really a starter technically, right, Ryan?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you go back and watch Rashawn Gary at Michigan, man. I was like, I like the pick, but I don't know what the hell he is, man, right? I don't really know what he is. Is he an interior? Is he going to be an edge rusher? But with Van Ness, that's what he has to be, man. He has to be a legit pass rusher. So for him, I want to see him make a big leap.
Ryan, what about Matt LaFleur now? Is this a really pressure-packed year for Matt LaFleur? I mean, he's made the playoffs 2 years in a row, but he wouldn't have if the playoff format was the same as it was 3 seasons ago. 7 seed 2 times in a row. You win a playoff game against the 2 seed, then you lose to the eventual Super Bowl champions. You're in year 3 now with Jordan Love, and you are the guy at the helm of the offense. They just invested so heavily on the offensive side for you in this year's draft, which they rarely do, including taking a skill position player with their first-round pick. Matt LaFleur's pressure rating, if you're going to give that a scale, what do you think it is for Matt LaFleur this season for 2025?
All right, I don't know if this is a hot take, man. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but I think pressure is almost 10 out of 10 this year, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big LaFleur guy. I think he's one of the better coaches in the league, one of the better play callers in the league. There's been times, for example, a couple of years ago, those first couple games with Jordan Love, I was like, what is this offense, man? You could tell he does not fully trust Jordan Love.
Right.
I do not like what I'm seeing here. But then, again, the final 10 games of the season, things opened up. And I thought that was one of his better coaching jobs. The play calls were really creative. There's been obviously a lot of wins, right? Consecutive 13-win seasons. The first couple of years, he owned the division. But this year, I feel like the pressure is on because now this team should be ready to win. The last couple of years, I felt like Green Bay was playing with house money because 2 years ago, I considered it, if it wasn't a rebuild, it was a retool. You're saying goodbye to historically a top 10 quarterback all time.
Yeah, and how many times did we have to hear, Ryan, it was the youngest team in the league the last 2 seasons, right?
Yeah, exactly. The youngest team in the league. And also, you're bringing in a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley, right? You have all these young players, like you said, you're the youngest team. And, so you're kind of playing with house money. We didn't know that was going to be a playoff team, especially 2 years ago. I did not see them beating Dallas in that playoff game. And they should have actually beat San Francisco, man. They were playing really well in that game as well. Last year, it was a letdown against Philadelphia, but also Philadelphia was just damn good. They go on to win the Super Bowl. This year, especially in this division, I feel like the pressure's on because the Bears are only going to continue to get better. And I know people don't want to hear that. And I know they always say that, hey, we're back. We got our quarterback. I do like Caleb Williams, man. I really do. I know that everybody thinks that they got it wrong and Washington got it right. My take is I think Caleb will have a better career than Jaden Daniels. I think Ben Johnson is going to be awesome for him. I think Caleb was at his worst last year because he was holding onto the ball for 4 or 5 seconds in the pocket, taking way too many sacks. That's not going to be the case with Ben Johnson taking over as the play caller. Look at Jared Goff, man. Jared Goff 4 years ago was benched for a man named John Wolford. I have no idea where John Wolford is these days.
He does taxes now, I'm sure, Ryan. He does taxes now, yeah.
Sean McVay going into a playoff game benched him. It looked like Goff's career was over. Instead, Ben Johnson takes over as play caller in Detroit. 3 straight seasons where Jared Goff has thrown for over 4,000 yards because it's not just Jared Goff in the shotgun. It's a lot of play action. He looked at what Jared Goff does well and what he doesn't do well. And I think that's what Ben Johnson's going to do for Caleb Williams. And I love all the moves that the Bears have made, but I think that they're probably like a 9-10 win playoff team this year, but they're not good enough to win the division. I think Detroit takes a step back, like I said, because you lose both coordinators. Now let's find out how good Dan Campbell is. Now let's see how Jared Goff is, without Ben Johnson calling the plays. And I worry about that defense, man. Aiden Hutchinson was the only guy going back to pressure that could consistently get pressure on the quarterback. He had 6.5 sacks, led the league in pressures. He got hurt, and that defense fell off a cliff, man. They won 15 games. They hosted a playoff game at home in a dome and still lost to a rookie quarterback. So if it wasn't last year, I don't think it's this year for Detroit. And then Minnesota, I'm going to consider it a rebuild year because it's J.J. McCarthy, pretty much a rookie quarterback. So I think the pressure's on Green Bay to win the division and make a run this year, man. No more excuses for Jordan Love. He's not a rookie. He's not a second-year guy, right? Like, now is the year where he needs to be the man. And then the defense, I like the signs that we saw, like the stuff that we saw last year, like especially the second half of the season. But they need to at least finish, I would say, I'm not going to say top 10, but I think top 15, top 13. And I think this team is a legit Super Bowl contender. But the pressure's all on LaFleur because they've had the 13-win seasons. They've been to the NFC Championship game. Now it's time to get to the Super Bowl. There's been some little things a couple years ago taking Aaron Rodgers off the field, and you could say, well, Rodgers kept throwing the ball to Devontae, kept forcing it. But taking the field goal, man, and not getting the ball back, I thought that was a boneheaded decision. But other than that, I've never critiqued or had anything bad to say about Matt LaFleur, but this is a big year, man. It's time to win now.
Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, the BetMGM Network, joining the Pack-A-Day radio show. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman. It wouldn't be a segment with Ryan Horvat if we didn't get a little bit into the betting game here. Ryan, I asked you yesterday when we were talking about coming on today, some of your favorite props within the NFC or the NFC North this year, whether it is Green Bay Packer related, whether it's divisional related. What are you looking at heading into 2025? What do you like the odds on? What do you think the most likely is to happen? Some of your favorite prop bets for the NFC and the NFC North heading into 2025, Ryan.
Awesome. Yeah, I got a pretty good list of them, man. I got Jordan Love. They opened the touchdown passes at 26.5. I think he throws a minimum of 28 if he stays healthy. So that was the first bet that I placed. And if you shop around, you might be able to find like a 24.5. Jordan Love's not throwing anything less than 25 touchdown passes. Right. So that's my favorite passing prop there. In the AFC, really quick, Trevor Lawrence, his touchdown passes this year, 21.5. I know a lot of people are out on T-Law, man. He just has not been healthy. I love the Liam Cohen hire. I loved him at Kentucky 2 years ago, and I loved him at Tampa Bay. People thought Baker was going to have this big drop-off because Dave Canales left. Instead, Baker threw over 40 touchdown passes, was an all-pro. Baker Mayfield looked like the best quarterback in the league some weeks. Yeah. I think Trevor Lawrence at least throws 22 touchdown passes. His number's only 21.5. So I like that quite a bit. I did go over on the Bears win total, over 8.5 wins. I think they win 10 games. I know the defense last year was a mess for a stretch, but also they fired Matt Eberflus, and you could tell there was just a lot of quit in that locker room. I'll always hate the Bears, man, but I do like what they're building. I went under 10.5 wins on the Detroit Lions. The schedule gets a little bit tougher. Jared Goff last year, all those road games were indoors. Look at his indoor and outdoor splits, man. This year, I believe 8 of the 9 or something like that are outdoors.
Wow.
Good luck, Detroit. I think they take a step back. So I played their win total under. As far as like season-long props, man, Josh Jacobs' rushing yards was something that I looked at and I considered going under. Not that I think he's going to have a down year. I just think that he's going to be, 28, 29 years old. He was so damn good last year, carried the workload. I think he's going to split some carries this year, man. I like Lloyd a lot. He wasn't healthy last year. And I do think that Jordan Love is going to be putting the ball in the air like 35 to 40 times a week. So I might go under on the rushing prop. I'm going to let that thing climb. That's what I usually do. If I want to play an over, like I grab Brock Bowers over 5.5 touchdowns, then I want to play that early because the number will only go up. If I want to play an under, I'm going to wait until we get a little bit closer to the season, and then I'll go under. Because that's where you could go from like Brock Bowers 5.5 touchdowns. If people keep betting it up, it'll get all the way to 7.5. But that's one that I really like, just throwing him out there. His touchdowns, 5.5. He had 6 last year as a rookie. Now they bring in Geno Smith as the quarterback, Pete Carroll, and Chip Kelly. And it's like Pete Carroll didn't leave the golf course at 80 years old to only win 5-6 games. So I think they're going to compete, man. So I like Brock Bowers to score 6 touchdowns. Like I said, I love Trevor Lawrence touchdown passes, Jordan Love touchdown passes. I did take Green Bay to win the NFC North. I think anything over plus 200 is just a crazy price. I think on paper they're the best team. So I really like a stab at that. And then, again, going back to the AFC, man, I like T. Higgins touchdowns this year. I bet it at 6.5. Last year he only played 12 games and he had 10 touchdowns. And they paid him $100+ million while paying Jamar Chase $100+ million. So Joe Burrow is going to look to get him the ball. He's more of the red zone guy. So I really like his touchdown number as well.
Horvat, what about 3,350 for Aaron Rodgers? That's the over/under on his passing yards this year. That seems too good to be true, Ryan. There's no way he's not throwing for 195 yards a game, right?
Right, dude. Yeah, I can only bet the over. That said, I think the Steelers are going to be good. This doesn't even end. It's just like Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. But I do think this is going to be like a different version of Rodgers. I think it's going to be more like a run-first offense, especially with Arthur Smith calling the plays there, man. So I think you're not going to get your regular Rodgers numbers. I think he might throw like 20, 22 touchdown passes. The yards, I would still take the over, but I think he's going to be more of a game manager. He's 41 years old. That defense, if they keep TJ Watt, because that's what it comes down to. The splits, the Steelers with TJ Watt on the field are a top 10 defense. When he's hurt, man, and doesn't play, they fall outside the top 25, which is crazy. I've never seen anything like that. I can make the case for him to win Defensive Player of the Year every year. But I think, like, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. The defense should still be pretty good. As long as Rodgers doesn't cause any drama, which I don't think he will. I think he wants to win this year, man. It's his last year. I think they'll win 10, 11 games, but I'm not going to touch his props. But I would only bet the overs. Those numbers are so soft, I can only bet the overs. People think he's washed, man. The last 5-6 games of the season, he played like one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at all. Like I said, I thought the number was criminally low when I saw it come out, and it's just too juicy. It's got something's fishy on there. I'm not sure about it. Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on today. Anything you want to plug before we get you out of here?
Yeah, I'll be back next Monday, BetMGM tonight, 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Coming up soon, man, we'll have our college football show on Saturdays. Really excited about that. You want to talk about pressure, man. Matt LaFleur's got some pressure, but how about our boy Luke Fickell?
Oh, God.
Trying to at least win. We got to win 7-8 games.
I was trying to not get mad during this segment here. Anytime you bring that name up, my face turns Badger red.
Man, I actually like the team this year, man. I hate the schedule, though, especially the non-con schedule.
Brutal schedule.
But yeah, I'm back next week, man. We'll be talking a ton of Packer football, NFC North, of course. But, yeah, I'm really getting excited, man. It's not even a homer pick. I really think Green Bay is going to be really good this year, and I think this is their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. The better, at least for the last 3-4 years. So I'm all in this year.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on today. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, my friend. Have a good one. Good to talk to you, boss.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Take care.
There he is, Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. Coming up, we'll get to the next segment here at Pack-A-Day Radio. Potawatomi Sportsbook Final Thought of the Day coming up next. It is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Tommy Wortz in for Andy Herman this week. No shows on Friday. Hope everyone has great, safe plans for the 4th of July, whether it's Mason Crosby going to fight for America or something in Texas, or you're just going to go watch the fireworks at your local park. It's going to be a great weekend, I'm sure. Coming up, the Mason Crosby Show, 9 a.m. to 11, presented by Verizon with Mitch Thunder Nellis. They'll be on today. Dario Melendez is going to join the program at 9:25 as well. Plus, how about those moves for the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday? Well, not really new moves, but retaining a lot of players. Brooke Lopez now off to the Clippers. That I think everyone kind of knew was going to be in the back of everyone's mind, that he wanted to get closer to home, closer out to L.A. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be the Lakers, though, not the Clippers. They'll talk about that for sure on the Mason Crosby Show. I'll be on there producing as well. Mitch Thunder Nellis joining every day. Wisconsin Sports Daily today as well. Steve Sparky Pfeiffer, 2 to 5. Make sure you guys listen to that. And the Milwaukee Brewers back in action today. They'll take on the New York Mets. Is there a little bit of a revenge game, revenge series type feel with David Stearns in the front office? We'll talk about that on the leadoff show today. That comes up right after Wisconsin Sports Daily. Thanks again to Ryan Horvat for joining the program today from the BetMGM Network. BetMGM tonight, just maybe one of the more popular national guys in the Milwaukee market. Always does a fantastic job on BetMGM tonight. Does a great job coming on all our shows. We have him here. Sparky's had him on. We've had him on the Mason Crosby Show. And, of course, Andy Herman and Pack-A-Day Radio. Andy will be back next week for a little bit, then has a little more of a hiatus later on, so I'll be filling in again for him. Today, we talked about second and third year players and the pressure on the second and third year players for the Green Bay Packers specifically. Who has the most pressure of the second and third year players? And when we asked Ryan Horvat, he went with Dontavian Wicks, Lucas Van Ness being in that option. Jordan Morgan's been a popular pick during that as well. I like the Marshawn Lloyd. I think that's kind of sneaky during this whole process too, saying that if Josh Jacobs is going to hit the under on his rushing yards bet, like Ryan Horvat just said in the last segment, it's because Marshawn Lloyd's going to have a successful 2025. And we didn't get to see a lot of it last year because of the injuries, because of the appendicitis during the time. But I think a lot of people are excited for the big play, the explosive play ability from Marshawn Lloyd heading into 2025 and what that can be for the Green Bay Packers on the offensive side. One more thing to get to before we get out of here, the Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan.
Final thought of the day, presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Something we haven't talked about yet. Yesterday, a lot of turmoil, it seems like, in Pittsburgh. After they make great moves to go out and get Jalen Ramsey, they have to give up Minkah Fitzpatrick. But then they brought in Jonnu Smith for a late-round pick. And people still think that TJ Watt might be upset with his deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why not? One last Hail Mary. Green Bay, what would you give up? What would you give up to bring in TJ Watt? He gets to come back to his home state, the state where he played college sports. He has been a defensive player of the year. He could win it every year if you ask Ryan Horvat. Go in again. We talked about the defensive line and how many people they need to improve on the defensive line from that second and third year group. Well, you can rely on acquisitions of established players who you know can perform at the highest level in the National Football League if you bring in TJ Watt, and you don't have to rely so heavily on development. Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl because of their defensive line. They drafted all of them, they developed all of them, and they were great against Patrick Mahomes in the championship game. But Saquon Barkley got him there. That was an acquisition of an established player they knew could be a part of the team. Thank you so much for listening to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM, 105.7 FM in the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. The Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis is up next. Oh, and don't forget, go, Pack, go.